Hi everyone, here's an in-depth look at Phillip Island in the Formula Renault 2.0, which is late afternoon default weather. It's been a while since I've run this car, but I think this track car combination is one of the best in the game. This track's fun in every open wheeler, but a lot of open wheelers draft too much, so you're not really racing the other cars. It's kind of like, I don't know, just pulling them along. But this, in this car with its fairly minimal drafting characteristics, this track is a lot of fun. So you've got to set up a clean exit. It doesn't have to be the most accurate in the world. It just needs to get out and shoot you down this main straight without losing speed. Now hug the car inside. Don't let it drift too far out, or you'll have to overcorrect it and you'll often lose the back end. Now into turn 1 it's flat, so just enter from the outside of the track and turn into the apex. You can get up on that inside curb a little bit, but don't lift at any point. It's just really easy and turning in smoothly. You'd have to have pretty ridiculously low downforce to need to lift through there in this car. Now this is probably the hardest corner on the track overall. So what you want to do is enter from wide, but before you get to the apex, kind of move into an early apex. And then just kind of hug that inside line. Now you want to bring the front end back into the apex before acceleration, and then get hard on the throttle and push the car out. Now there's not really any good braking markers or anything, so you've just kind of got to do it by feel. The amount of momentum you carry in will depend on where you brake, and you want to get basically straight into really early apex. What I used to do here was enter from wide and kind of bring the car around to a later apex, but I found that's a bit smoother on the car, as you don't have to aggressively like stop it and turn it in a V, but it's just not the best way to do this corner. I actually learnt this from Scott McLaughlin, who used to race this car quite a bit, and he dived inside of me on lap 1 once and got the position and kind of pushed me out wide. I wasn't too impressed with it, but his normal line is just to hug the inside, and when I started doing it consistently, I found it is a little bit quicker. Although I still see a lot of fast drivers take a wide line with a late apex, so I just think bringing it into the early apex is easier. Now you kind of want to, get the car stopped here while you're trail braking and get it back in. Now it's a hard compromise, because if you carry too much speed in there and don't take off enough, you'll shoot past the inside apex and you'll lose quite a bit of time. Also, if you try and bring the car around, you'll often unsettle it and spin. So it's a really fine line. In the race it's going to be harder to do it consistently, but I hugged that apex there and could get in the throttle nice and early and push the car out. Now just flat down through here. Now I'm braking more or less at the 100 marker. I've got the brake balance quite a way forward just to keep the car steady. Now you're wanting to get the car stopped and then bring it in either to this inside white line or slightly touching the inside curb with your front right. You want to basically carry the momentum from the braking zone and release the brakes and let the car drift into the apex. And then quickly accelerate hard out and use all the track out here. Just do fast motion. Now, downshifting really slowly is you just want to focus on not settling it. The way you've got to set the car, not unsettling it, the way you've got to set the car up for this track means that you're just constantly giving it tiny little inputs to not push it, because if you dive on the brakes too there and quickly downshift, the back end of the car quite often moves out, and when you're turning into this corner with the car already unsettled, you're not going to get good traction on exit and you're going to lose quite a bit of time. That was pretty well perfect. I just kept it in there nice and flat and didn't unsettle it and exit. Now to get into here, you want to exit from wide and you kind of want to be pointing at the late apex before you get into the corner. So you're kind of turning in early, not so at this point I'm aiming at the apex around here somewhere before I've even gotten close to the close apex. Now what I like to do down through here is again downshift really slowly, so just focus on keeping the car flat under braking and aiming it with momentum at the apex you're wanting to aim for. Then as you get through the corner, worry about the downshifts. So not even downshifted yet. Pushed out, didn't unsettle it too much through there. So it's very tempting once you hit the actual apex to just stomp on the throttle, but through here you've just got to bring it on a bit slow, because if you stomp it, it'll cause understeer. But also if you've got any sort of diff preload on the car, it'll cause the back end to kick out because of the camber of the track, and you really can't lose the good run through here because you can lose a tenth on acceleration down through this straight. Just flat through here. Now you've got two options. You can go up in the 7th or you can leave it in 6th and it will bounce off the rev limiter. I personally just leave it in 6th because it's just less to think about into the corner. The bouncing in the limiter doesn't cost you anything significant, and you want to bring the car, you're not braking, I shouldn't say that before I have a look because you're quite often do this by instinct. No, you're not braking, you're just lifting off the throttle and throwing the car into the inside apex. Now around midway point you want to grab a downshift, and you're still just feathering the throttle through here. Now in this car is quite a hard corner because the car's never really very settled and you can't just go full throttle. You're constantly managing the throttle sort of with the back end. I did actually put a touch of brake on the apex there just to settle it, barely anything, like 5%. And still slowly shifting down through here. So just kind of being gentle on the throttle. It's very easy to provoke the car through here, and I find if you're chasing the back end you just can't be quick. You're better off just keeping the throttle a bit under the limit of the rear end, and then rather than just trying to get on the throttle really hard through there and having the back end constantly moving out from you. Now again here, I'm using the 50 meter marker as a braking marker. I'm braking just before it. You again have to be really smooth. Now if you've come through that corner with the car unsettled, it's going to carry the unsettled momentum into the braking zone, at which point you're going to lose further time. So you're just wanting to really smooth onto the brake through here and just slowly glide the car down the speed, because you've got to get it right into this apex and get a good exit. If the back end's moving, you also can't get traction. So just one smooth motion through there, and you can get the full throttle fairly easy if you get that apex right. If you miss the apex and you have to cut the car back to the right, you're going to have to bring it back to the right, then transition to the left, which means it takes a long time before you can get full throttle, and it will either unsettle it or compromise you through that section. Just flat through here. I keep a fairly minimal line, just hug that inside apex and don't let the car drift out too wide. You don't really need to in these cars, just adding track distance. That's lap. That was a 125.1, which, truth be told, I was pretty happy with. I thought I put together near my optimal. I think it was about a tenth and a half off my optimal. So around here, that's a pretty good lap. A lot of people say this is an easy track, too simple, but I find to actually get the right rhythm in it, to get the flow going and not make errors, it's actually quite difficult because it's all high speed. You've got pretty minimal wing on the car to give it good turn in, and the car's nearly always unsettled when you're driving through here through the high speed corners. So I think it's quite a test. Here's just a fast speed lap.